sharing. Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene and you are listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today at our ASEAN Daily, we are going to bring you news, starting with our breaking news from Malaysia. So Malaysian leader Najib Razak will be facing US corruption inquiry. The embattled Prime Minister of Malaysia facing mounting political turmoil and a parade of inquiries at home and abroad into a sovereign wealth fund 1MDB that he oversees is now coming under the scrutiny of American investigators as well. A federal grand jury is examining allegations of corruptions involving the Prime Minister and the people close to him. This is according to two people with knowledge of the investigation. While the inquiry itself, it is being run by a unit of the Justice Department that investigates international corruption, is focused on properties in the United States that were purchased in recent years by shell companies that belong to the Prime Minister's stepson, as well as other real estate connected to a close family friend. Said that the people knowledgeable about the case who asked for anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss it. The investigators are also looking at a 681 million payment made to what is believed to be Mr. Najib's personal bank account. According to head banker of Bank Negara, Zeti Akhtar Aziz, right now they know that the public wants answer to this question and they deserve to get the answer. While on the other hand, the Justice Department investigation is still in the early days and it could take years to determine if any federal laws were broken. It was opened partly in response to an examination by the New York Times, is an American newspaper, of condominiums at the Time Warner Center in Manhattan, whose ownership is hidden behind shell companies. And this is according to people with knowledge of the case. On the other hand, in the United States, officials are also examining the real estate tied to Mr. Najib's stepson and to Mr. Low, which could be seized if a case could be made that the properties has been purchased with the proceeds earned in corrupt practices. This is according to people familiar with the investigation. The 681 million payment is being investigated under the United States jurisdiction because it was routed through Wells Fargo, an American bank. Talking about the US, the US actually, on the other hand, some global updates. The US actually will accept tens of thousands of more refugees. This is according to Senator John Kerry. He said that the US will accept 85,000 more refugees from around the world next year, and that number will rise up to 100,000 in 2017. John Kerry said that he did not say how many of the additional refugees will be from Syria, but said that the US was ready to help. He also added that in consultation with the Congress, they will continue to explore ways to increase those figures while maintaining robust security. And he also announced that he will be holding talks on the sideline of the UN General Assembly in New York this week on ways to restart negotiations on a political solution to end Syria's war. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on the political side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
So you are back with us again, this time on the political side of Southeast Asia. So earlier on, we reported about Najib being investigated, but back in our Malaysian soil, Najib was being investigated in the US, sorry about that. But back in our Malaysian soil, good news by the edge, because the Malaysian court has reversed 3-month ban on the newspaper.
Right, and we're talking about, of course, the Edge Communications, where they successfully contested Putrajaya's 3-month suspension of its publications after the High Court here squashed the Home Ministry order issued over reports over 1MDB, of course, which happened.
Yeah, I'm really glad that there is some space for media freedom, as well as I guess this also somehow make us more confident of our judicial system.
That's right. And according to the High Court Judge, Dato' Asmawi Muhammad, he said that the Home Ministry actually acted irrationally and illegally by issuing the suspension order, and also noting that the latter had breached procedural fairness when issuing a show cause letter. And like you mentioned, a lot of people were outraged actually when there was a ban on the Edge, because that was the time then we were all sort of dying to know what's happening with 1MDB, and the Edge was trying to help everyone out by publishing a guide, a proper infographic for people to learn. And after they were banned, of course, that violates our freedom of expression in the country. But the fact that they have reversed the ban definitely restores our faith in media freedom.
I would say the best way forward should be the government should sue the Edge if the Edge is really publishing something that is not true about the government.
They were going to do that.
Yeah. Let's wait and see. But to completely ban the Edge, I don't think, I mean, morally, I don't think it's right. Even in terms of judiciary, Asmabi, which is the High Court judge, also ruled that the ministry's suspension is not right, and in fact ordered the payment of damages of 15,000 ringgit to be awarded to the Edge. That's like icing of the cake, right? For the Edge.
True.
It's like I mean, they already done their duty as what any journalist and any media should do, or which is to report whatever that is necessary about their government. But at the same time, they are being awarded 15,000 of damages. At least they can pay the salary of their staff for the last 2 months.
And among other things, the High Court judge also said that Home Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi himself was in doubt whether the Edge had published its articles by relying allegedly on unverified information and online news portals. So it seems that the whole basis of the accusation was flawed. They were not even sure if the articles published by the Edge was certain, was backed by proof and evidence, and for them to just go ahead and charge the Edge, that was not right on the Home Minister's side.
And her case is very strong. She said that the Home Ministry was making an ultra virus. I don't know how to pronounce it, ultra virus or virus. Anyway, it meant that it is beyond the power granted under the Section 7(1) of the Printing Presses Publications Act, or PPPA. So it is not within that printing act. In other words, that you are just charging someone based on nothing.
Some act that's just there. Actually, another news that I read yesterday was also about the Nepalese woman in Penang who got acquitted because she was charged because she went for an abortion, and that was reversed as well. And I think the judiciary system in the country is really looking up to have all this positive news coming up.
Well, you mentioned Nepal, but the next news is not about Nepal, it's about India. So apparently India will not get involved in ASEAN disputes. They want to stay away. It's like,
how are they going to get me back?
To them, it's like, Southeast Asian, I know you have your shit together. Just get it together, and I will just come in for the money.
Right.
That's exactly what they are looking at, because India wants to develop comprehensive ties with ASEAN nations, which is 10 nations, but will not get involved in any of the territorial or maritime disputes. And we are talking about the South China Sea.
I think if you ask me, since my parents follow the India politics and I do have some knowledge about it, India themselves have a lot of different problems that they have yet to solve internally. So I think it will be wise for them to actually focus on their own internal problems, whatever that they have in terms of poverty, in terms of jobs, especially corruption, and even women's safety. It's still a massive issue over there. And I think it's best that they probably focus on other parts.
I think their biggest problem now is Pakistan. That's it.
Always will be.
It's like Pakistan and nothing else. So according to the Vice President Hamid Ansari, he said that India has a very clear-cut view on Southeast Asia, which is to develop a good relationship. That's it. And also, when he was asked why many Southeast Asian countries embroiled in territorial and maritime dispute can India emerge as a stabilizing force, he said that in a lighter vein, that they are not in the business of providing stabilizers and or that has to be done by the shipbuilding industry. I'm not sure what he meant by shipbuilding industry, but I think what he's saying that they are not going to be in international relation, they are not going to be an external power to stabilize the Chinese power. They're just going to be in Southeast Asia just for the sake of relationship and trade.
Yeah, but I always thought that India chooses not to get involved when China is in play. So I think in this case it's quite interesting to see India actually speaking up against
unless Pakistan is in the picture.
That's true. And also during his visit to Cambodia and Laos, Ansari has said and also emphasized on the importance of India forging close relationships with ASEAN countries, especially the CLMV countries, because I guess there's a lot of untapped potential in those areas as well.
Yeah, definitely. On the other hand, the ASEAN spirit, a viable human rights solution to North Korea. So North Korea has drawn international attention after a series of UN reports between 2011 and 2012 criticized Pyongyang as the human rights condition in the country continue to deteriorate. So our Mazuki from Southeast Asia said that ASEAN's role as a common regional platform for shared experiences might prove as a useful entry point to somehow make North Korea a much less human rights violating country, I suppose.
Well, we are going to teach them. Okay. Well, but in an effort to maintain the momentum, he has also said that UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights tasked with compiling the reports, and they will also be looking at new ways to address this North Korea situation, especially through ASEAN. And he said that the countries with experience in discussing human rights, such as Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, notice that Malaysia is not on the list, would do well to engage North Korea in seeking answers to their own problems. But whether or not their leader wants to listen to us, I think is a different story altogether.
Well, you know what? At least South Korean ambassador to ASEAN, Sok Jong-in, principally agreed with Marzuki Darusman, the UN Special Rapporteur, on the non-confrontational approach to solve the North Korean problem, but warned against any heightened expectations.
So what's happening here is we're actually using the idea of ASEAN spirit to address the human rights issue. And North Korea is not really a part of ASEAN, so I'm not sure how they're going to feel the ASEAN spirit.
Yeah, and if you are talking about Southeast Asian human rights problem, I think we have our own problem as well. So it's really hard to use ASEAN spirit as part of their reference.
Oh, this probably start sending people out in boats. Like, hey, I think this is the ASEAN way of doing things.
You have been sarcastic.
Exactly.
Okay, talking about Southeast Asia, Indonesia already named 7 firms and 133 people as suspect in the forest fire recently in Sumatra.
And these 70 farm owners were being detained last week on suspicion of burning their land on Indonesia's Sumatra island, where authorities have been battling the smoke-belching blazes, which was starting to clear for the palm oil and pulp and paper plantations, according to their national chief police. And of course, all Indonesian neighbors, especially Singapore, have been calling for years more to be done to stop these outbreaks. I think it's a very simple problem that we have here, actually. All these plantation owners just need to find out a new way to clear it out for the new harvesting. But as of now, they're just resorting to the shortcut, which is just burning everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's high time for ASEAN to have a discussion on sustainable development where the focus is on sustainable way of planting
Production as well.
of production of planting commercial crops like palm oil, because at the end of the day, Malaysia and Indonesia combined are producing 80% of the world's palm oil, so it's like a huge chunk of revenue here for Malaysia and Indonesia, and we do not want to create another problem just because it's a commercial crop. We want to ensure that it's a commercial crop, but it's also sustainable and it's benefiting to the country, Malaysia and Indonesia.
And apart from that, the fires that happened this year by the effects of the El Nino weather phenomenon, also because of a prolonged dry season in Indonesia, has parched the topsoil, fueling the flames. And Indonesia does actually have quite a severe sentence to people who actually do open burning, which is 10 years in prison and up to 10 billion rupiahs in fine.
Is that called severe, Gowri? I mean, they actually
I think 10 years in prison is quite severe.
They actually execute those who are drug users or drug
That's
smugglers, but they only fine like 10 years.
Because this is just burning. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just burning, but I do think that 10 years is quite a big deal. I mean, if I'm just burning something and you want to put me in jail for 10 years for that, like, it's not like I killed someone or something. But I think the problem here is also implementing and enforcing the law here, especially these big companies that are being the bad boys.
Yeah, 10 years is nothing to companies, because at the end of the day, the country is somehow still corrupted, just like any other Southeast Asian country, except for Singapore perhaps. There's a possibility of conspiracy between businessmen, government officers, law enforcers, and at the end of the day, even if you have those laws, but it might not be implemented, or it might be reduced to the extent it probably just a 1-day jail.
Oh, that's right. I mean, they probably have their own ways of dealing with the government and between the companies.
And on the other hand, let's focus on China now. So the Chinese syndrome, how volatility. Oh my god, my morning sickness. How volatility.
That's okay, Arlene. I got this. The China syndrome and how volatility is actually affecting ASEAN at the moment, with the economic slowdown that's happening, especially affecting many countries in East and Southeast Asia, which are on the front lines of this shift and were immediately affected again by the devaluation of the yuan.
So actually, it's an interview with Wharton finance professor Franklin Allen. He was sharing his view on the risk hanging over the region and the global economy. So according to him, the devaluation in China itself is not actually the biggest problem, because it's just at 3%. But the biggest problem here is the impact on the capital flows once China start reducing the capital control, and there's a huge uncertainty here.
And one of the reasons that it may have had so much impact is that people realize that the Chinese are actually serious about globalizing and becoming part of the global financial system. I think this was quite apparent since for quite some time ago that they are always competing with America to see who can be the one to control the world economy.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of it depends with also what happens with the interest rates in the US.
So the currency war is just the tip of the iceberg. The real dilemma here is the economic, I would say, clash between the US and China, because on the other hand you are also seeing a lot of this are also depending on the interest rates in the US, how much money is going to float back from emerging economies into the US, and if the Europeans eventually get through their quantitative easing, how much will it go back to Europe? So there's a lot of uncertainty, as in like you don't just speculate, you just wait and see, then you move one step further. But that's the thing about financial war.
Right. I mean, the fact that the market is so volatile at the moment also makes it difficult for us to predict, like you mentioned, even when it comes to speculating. So the best that we can do is wait and see what is China's next step, at least.
Anyway, we'll take another one short break. When we return, we will talk more on the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
So continuing on our economic news, so ASEAN mulls the Silk Road. China made its pitch to ASEAN members to promote its maritime Silk Road plans at the 12th China ASEAN Expo in Nanning. And it begins on September 18, a few days ago.
And this maritime Silk Road, which was first proposed by Chinese President Xi Jinping during a visit to Indonesia back in October 2013, and it has been heavily promoted by the Chinese officials. And so far, China has already planned 40 marine projects in the field of marine rescue, science, education, coordination, as well as the green economy.
But you know, not every ASEAN country actually agree with it, because ironically, the remarks of some ASEAN leaders noticeably omitted mention of the maritime Silk Road, while officials from other ASEAN countries were absent entirely. I mean, I give example of Nguyen Xuan Park from Vietnam. He's a Vietnamese deputy prime minister. He didn't discuss the maritime Silk Road during his speech, and ironically as well, that no representative from the Philippines spoke at the event as well. So while many support for the plan may be at different level across ASEAN, economic linkages with China are growing. And China is ASEAN's biggest trading partner, but it seems like not every ASEAN country would want to cooperate with China.
I think it's not really surprising, even at the ASEAN summit or all the news that we have been getting from the ASEAN countries. No one really had any emphasis on the maritime Silk Road. Not even Malaysia, as the chairman of ASEAN this year. I doubt there was any mention about it, even at the official dinner while we were present. I'm assuming mostly because it's such a massive project, and it's a very big thing, and it's even I don't know if it's actually even possible to execute this, because it's a very long road extending all the way from India, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like almost the whole of Asia.
Exactly.
And yesterday I had a discussion with Dr. Philip Andrew Speed. He's from the NUS, the university in Singapore, and he also mentioned the exact same thing that you say, which is it looks like more of a vision rather than a plan, because a plan is concrete, it has a deadline, it has a head and a tail. But for the maritime and also the land Silk Road project, seems to be a grand idea. But that's it.
Right, and because of that, I think most countries are quite skeptical about whether or not it can happen, or even if it does happen, probably not within the next 5 years or so. And that's probably why everyone's just omitting it out of their speech.
Our next news is pretty interesting to Gowri, not to Arlene. So apparently Philip Morris moves ahead with rare Southeast Asia deal.
Which is?
Well, it is raising as much as 1.4 billion US dollar via stake sale in Indonesia unit PTHM Sampurna. People with knowledge of the transaction actually mention it.
Right. And they are also raising about 1.4 billion, like you mentioned, and they will be starting to take orders from institutional and retail investors for share sale in the PTHM Sampurna, where it is selling shares through a rights issue at about 65,000 rupiah to 77,000 rupiah. And the sale will also help to improve sentiment towards the Indonesian equity market, which has been one of the worst performers in Asia so far this year. And because of that, they're also trying to boost foreign funds, of course, to flow more into the country.
Yeah, and apparently Philip Morris is one of the biggest company in Indonesia. So Gowri, you know what to buy when you're in Indonesia.
Yes, I do.
Moving on to our socio-cultural news. So apparently culture is important for ASEAN youth. Of course it is. Preserving and enriching culture and in identity of people in Southeast Asia region is vital when establishing the ASEAN community. And of course, young people play the key role here.
And this is in line with 36 outstanding young people who were chosen from 7 out of 10 ASEAN countries, to discuss about this at the ASEAN Youth Forum 2015 at Ho Chi Minh City, Cambodia. And while some of the representatives were talking about saving traditional music from each community and country, there were also a lot who proposed teaching the main languages of the region in universities. And they said that through languages, people could actually understand the cultures of other countries in the community. I think that's one of the biggest question when it comes to ASEAN as a whole. What will be our common language? I mean, we can speak English, but English doesn't even belong here. It didn't come from here. And if we were to talk about ASEAN itself, what languages actually are we comfortable with using, or is most widely spoken in ASEAN?
Oh, that's very hard to say because you have 10 different languages here, and of course everyone wants their language to be the regional language. But at the same time, I mean, other things that they were discussing is about Western culture. And this one representative, Seng Janine from Cambodia, said that culture is important because it represents the country's identity. But he also admitted that young people in Cambodia were influenced by Western culture during the globalization period. However, Khmer people still wore traditional dress in everyday life. So I bet, Gowri, you want to wear sari every day?
I do not want to wear sari every day.
Okay, I rest my case.
No idea how difficult it is to walk in sari.
You are a bad influence to ASEAN, Gowri. I just want to tell you.
Oh well, I just want to be able to walk. Okay.
Okay. Moving on to the next news about spiders. Apparently, there's a spider ambassador, and it's out to nurture nature lovers.
And he is also known as Singapore's very own Spider-Man, who had a former career as a diplomat, and he served at the Singapore's High Commissioner to Brunei Darussalam for 6 years before retiring in 2012. And now Mr. Koh is a spider expert who has described in journals more than half a dozen spider species that are new to science.
Wow. And they have been exploring a lot of spiders in Brunei, actually. In fact, he is helped by his wife, who regularly joins him and his spider collecting field trips, even to the forests of Brunei while he was working there. And once, this is what he shared, they were talking to a Bruneian prince about their spider collecting trips. And he was so surprised to learn that his wife often go along with other trips with him. And he also asked Pei Fen is his wife, if she loves spiders as much as he does, and to which he promptly replied no. Your Highness, I do not love spiders, but I love my husband. So it's
I
just-
am just so glad that this guy is not my husband. I do not want to be dealing with spiders. No, I think even if I do love my husband, I'll be like, hey, stay away from me with all your spider collections.
Yeah.
But I guess Mr. Koh has devoted a lot of times to his projects, and he's also planning to teach future generations of Singaporeans about appreciating the natural environment. And he's also going to donate about 12,000 specimens from his collection, possibly the largest in Southeast Asia, actually, to the Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum.
Oh, I'm so proud of
If
him.
we ever go to Singapore,
I'll
if you
visit
guys
him.
want, go visit this spider museum, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Before we end the show, just a news about this one research or a survey by Ernst and Young, carried out with the University of St. Gallen Center for Family Business. Apparently, very few Singaporean graduates actually eager to join family business.
Mm-hmm. And of course, these Singapore students who were part of the research said that they would join the company 5 years after their studies if they are actually interested to join the family business. And even a lower proportion, 1.1%, are willing to do so right after graduation. And it's interesting to see this. I would say it's a bit new to me, because whenever I speak to people, they always tell me that they do not want to take over the family business,
really?
that they have other dreams and other plans and other passion that they want to pursue. So this is quite interesting that Singaporeans are actually different.
They're actually the same.
Oh, but they are eager to join the
Oh,
family
yeah.
business.
Oh,
Though. Yeah.
very few are eager.
Okay.
So that
okay.
means it's, I mean, perhaps it's a global trend.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I think a lot of people are, like you say, the younger generation, they want to have their own identity,
Exactly.
their own career. And this is also an interesting finding, because apparently the low level of succession interest among the next generation family members could be linked to the possibility that the succession planning has not been at the top of the agenda among family businesses. So for families out there, if you really want to train your kid to be the successor of your business, make sure you brainwash them to think so.
Right. And I think another factor is also because as countries become wealthier, they tend to have more options in terms of career choices. So that also contributes to the fact that they don't want to just follow what the family is doing, and they want to venture out on their own path.
Yeah. So Gowri, do you want to be a hotel owner?
Maybe in like 20 years.
Anyway, that's all from our news today. Thanks for listening to us. And you can always go to our website, duranasian.com, for all our latest updates, as well as on our social media. We post a lot of interesting stuff.
That's right. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And also download the TuneIn app if you want to listen to us on the go.